Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this Your Overseas Home webinar. My name is Patty, and I am the events manager here at Your Overseas Home. I am taking over today for my colleague Na, who is usually hosting these because the Wi-Fi is not the most reliable thing on Earth, sadly. So I'll be doing this one today. Today we'll be chatting with Gillian Richards from Chase Buchanan Wealth Management about your financial consideration when moving to Cyprus, all things finances and taxes. So hopefully we can answer all sorts of questions today. Once Gillian has shared a presentation, we'll open the floor up to questions. So if you do have any unanswered questions in the meantime, just put them in the questions tab on your right hand side, and we will be able to go through them after the presentation. To say it's so great to have so many of you with us today, whether you're watching live or on demand. And I just want to make sure that you're aware all the questions that you're asking here will be then forwarded to Gillian. So if there are any more specific requirements or any that we haven't had the chance to answer today, we'll forward them to Gillian and her team at Chase Buchanan. So don't worry, all questions will be answered. Okay, well, Gillian, before you start your presentation, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Chase Buchanan, please?
Yes, happy to do that. And kalispera sas to everyone who's watching today. A little bit about me, Gillian Richards. I'm the Regional Manager for Cyprus and Greece with Chase Buchanan Wealth Management. I have over 35 years of experience within financial services, and 15 of those years are in the offshore wealth management arena, so looking after expats around the world. I do a lot of work for the third sector. I actively engage in board roles for charitable organisations, and that's all in my spare time. So that's a little bit about me. If we go into the presentation, then I'll click through and I'll talk to you and explain who Chase Buchanan are and the services that we have.
Okay, amazing. So I'll make the presentation a bit bigger for everyone so everyone can see, and I'll hand over to you, Gillian. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you. So who are we? So Chase Buchanan, as it says on there, we're a highly regulated wealth management company. Our head office is in Cyprus, and we are regulated through the Cyprus Security and Exchange Commission, CISEC for short. We operate basically around the world. And I'll show, there is a slide, it shows where some of our offices are. We provide clear, transparent, jargon-free advice. We think it's unparalleled, our ongoing support, and we're always carrying out review meetings with our clients. And that's in line with what our clients wish to as well, you know, on the regularity of that. As it says, we try to provide the best level of service that we can. We are very highly regulated. We feel we have the right structure in place, and we definitely have the right people in place. So the services that we have are, we do investments. So we have our own model portfolios, we have our own in-house investment committee and analysts, and we do full financial planning. So that includes retirement planning, that could also include UK and international pension transfers, the QNAPs, education, school fees planning as well. And then we have the protection, so the life assurance, critical illness. All of that is included in our services. And I haven't missed it out, the US connected person. So anyone who's US that is moving to Europe, we have now got our Chase Buchanan USA, and they are fully up to date with all the legislation and regulations that are needed for any US connected person moving to Europe. And that's a very specialist team. So where are our offices? Well, I've already mentioned that our head office is in Cyprus. That's where we are regulated from. Our office is actually situated in Paphos. So it's really handy for anyone that is coming to the west side of Cyprus, of the island. We also have offices in Portugal and Spain, the Canary Islands, Malta. We've got advisors in Canada and Belgium. We've also got advisors in the UK helping expats from that office as well. And as I already mentioned, we have the USA. As I said, that is very specialist. So we're really unique with having that part now added to our team. So into the presentation itself, I'm just going to talk about the tax essentials. So tax residency, income tax, then some property taxes, stamp duty, VAT on property, a little bit about the general health system. And then I've got a little bit about some changes to buying property for residency. I'll put that in and then we'll talk just go through our checklist. So tax residency. So for Cyprus, you are considered a tax resident if you live in Cyprus for 183 days of the year. That's a really quite straightforward rule, and it's an easy one. But a lot of people, when they come to Cyprus and they retire, they don't actually want to live in Cyprus all of the time because they want to go travelling. They're trying to catch up on the things that they probably haven't done through their lifetime or continue what they have been doing. So we have quite a few clients that like to cruise. We've had clients that go on world cruises and they're away for months at a time, but they thoroughly love it. And why wouldn't you? You know, if you've saved up and you've got the money in retirement to go and do it and you've got your health, you may as well do it while you can. So that is one rule, but you're also considered a tax resident if you've got links to Cyprus, like family ties or business associations. But also as well, there's a 60-day rule, and that is as long as you do not reside anywhere else for 183 days, and you're not tax resident in another country, and you're here for 60 days, then you are, and you have to say the ties, then you are also classed as a tax resident of Cyprus. So that's really quite flexible. So if you own property here, you know, and that's good as well. So it all helps to tie in. And just to carry on, so there were some changes in January of last year. Of what you need now, what the requirements are to actually obtain residency. And this is all post-Brexit. So now that the UK is no longer part of the EU, these are additional requirements that now come into play. So the first one is annual income. You need to show that you have annual income of 24,000 euros. If you have a spouse, that goes up to 28,000. And if you've got dependent children or other dependent family members, then there's also an increase on that. So this is just a very high level. You also need to show that you have you need to have a clear criminal record certificate. So if you're living in the UK and you're coming from the UK to Cyprus, that is where you need to get your police check from. So from the UK. Now, because now post-Brexit, we are now classed as third country nationals, and therefore we now have to have medical certificates. These need to be done once you move to Cyprus, and these things like as blood test to show that you're not suffering from hepatitis B or C, HIV or syphilis. There's also, you need to have chest x-rays done. Then that's to show that you're clear of tuberculosis, because in some other countries, people do have these diseases, and they are also third nationals, as we are now from the UK. So that's why we need to now meet this medical criteria. Just touching on the tax guide then, the amount of tax that you will pay, it really depends obviously on your income level. So Cyprus has a really great computer system called Taxation, which will do your tax return for you. And if your income is just foreign pension income, then you can be charged at a flat rate of 5%. You get like a personal allowance of €3,420, and then on top of that, then anything over that, you will be taxed at 5%. But where the Taxation system comes in is that if it'll do the calculation for you. So if you look at the first full line, it's that chargeable income is up to 19,500. Then anything up to that amount, you do not pay tax. Over 19,501 to 28,000 euros, you're charged at 20%. So that's why the system, you put all your figures into the system. So although you might think, actually, I'm paying 5%, it could be that you fall into the nil rate band, or it could be that, you earn have a quite high level of pension income, that actually moving into the higher rates with the higher personal allowance will actually calculate a lower amount of tax to pay. And the system does that automatically for you. And then the rest of the bands are there on the screen. So capital gains is an interesting tax, because capital gains is charged at 20%, but it's only payable on the sale of Cypriot property. And that is immovable property. So ideally, your home. It's quite straightforward. €17,086 is the exempt for each person. There is an allowance made for the transfer fees, inflation, and any cost of additions that are made to the property. And as I was saying to Patty earlier, I'm doing some building work on my own property in Cyprus, so that all of those costs will be taken into account when I come to sell the property. Now, if you live in the property for at least 5 years prior to when you sell the property, that allowance actually goes up. And the exemption amount is €85,430. So, as I said, you just need to live in the property for 5 years before you put it up for sale. So once you've bought your property and now you're living in it and enjoying the life in Cyprus and the gorgeous weather, these are some of the other annual property taxes and fees that you will pay. Local authority fees here are really quite interesting. Thinking back to living in the UK, how much your council tax bill is, the fees are a lot lower here. So it can be anywhere between €85 to 500, which is payable annually. And that does depend on the size of your property and then what your local authority does for you. Do they come and empty your bins? Street lighting? Are you connected to the main sewer? So all of those things are included within that. Not everybody is on main sewerage. So the sewerage tax, the annual is between 0.05% and 0.3% of the value of the property from the 1st of January 2013. Or if it's a new build, it's from the first valuation that's payable. So it's an interesting one to look at. So again, those bills will be a lot lower than they are in the UK. And the municipality tax is an annual tax. Again, it's a very low tax. And again, that is from the value of the property on the 1st of January 2013, or when it was first valued as a new build. So if you're comparing the fees and taxes for the property to the UK, then you will see that Cyprus is actually quite a lot lower than you would be paying in the UK. And I appreciate that some areas of the UK are a lot cheaper than some of the big cities. Stamp duty. Stamp duty, similar to the UK, the purchaser is liable for the payment of stamp duty. Again, it's a rate, anything up to 5,000, it's 0. Anything there from 5,001 to 170, it's 0.15. And then anything over 170,000 euros, it's 0.20. So again, a lot lower. VAT, just to move on to that. VAT in Cyprus is 19%. So if you are buying a new property, you do need to remember that you have VAT on that property. If you're buying an older property, one that is a resale, then you don't pay the VAT. You can get the VAT reduced down on the new build from 19% down to a 5%, but that has to meet certain criteria. And that needs to be your primary and permanent resident for the next 10 years. If you don't, then what will happen is when you come to sell the property, then that VAT will be added onto your bill. To get the 5%, you have to show that you have not purchased another property with the reduced rate. You have to be over 18 years of age. And the 5% VAT is only payable on the first 200 square metre floor area of the property. If you have a larger property, then the remaining area will be charged at 19%. So it is important when you're looking at property. If you're thinking about buying property, just remember you have got the VAT if you're looking for a new property, and then just remember that it's 5% VAT if it's a smaller property. If it's anything larger, you can pay 5% on part of it, but you will be charged 19% on the rest. Okay. The bottom end of this slide, apologies, it should be on a separate slide. This is to do with Cyprus wills. Cyprus operates a forced heirship system. So that means that if you pass away, that anything that you own automatically goes to your children. It doesn't mean it goes to your spouse. And if you have children from previous relationships, it goes to them as well. So it is very important that when you do move to Cyprus, particularly if you buy property, is that you have a Cyprus will. And in that Cyprus will, you need to put a clause in there to say that your estate will be distributed under the laws of your country. So if you're from the UK, that your UK will cover your UK assets, and this Cyprus will is only for your Cyprus assets. Okay. When you buy property, if you're buying the property as a couple, then you will be given a title deed each for 50%. Okay. So again, your lawyer will talk it through with you, but it's making you aware beforehand. This is slightly different to the UK. The general health system, I've just put this in here really just to show what you can get. The public health system, this is the amount that you pay in. So this is it's called YESI, and it's very similar to the NHS in the UK. You have option to choose your own health provider, and then you can have your GP can refer you for various tests. A lot of the GP surgeries will do your blood tests there for you. But if you need to go to have hospital appointments, then you just get a referral. It's really quite straightforward. There is no real waiting list. You can get a doctor's appointment, the next day, or if you wake up and you don't feel very well in the morning, you probably 9 times out of 10 get an appointment that day. referrals for x-rays, that sort of thing straight away. If you need to have something a bit more, need to see a consultant, it may take a day or two. So it is very quick. There's no weeks of waiting, months of waiting. And then obviously once you're all diagnosed and the treatment straightforward, and it's all carried out very, very quickly. So it is a good thing to have. If you are working, then these are just the rates and what the employers pay if you're self-employed. If you're a pensioner, then you pay 2.65%. And all of this is deducted when you go through the tax system. So the taxes net, it'll tell you you've put your income in, it'll tell you how much tax you have to pay, if anything, and it'll tell you how much of the general health system you need to pay. Be aware that when you do a tax return, that even though you are not on or you don't qualify for the general health system, you will still be making a contribution to it. And then obviously if you're earning, if you've got rental income or property that you're renting out in Cyprus, or dividend income in Cyprus, or other income in Cyprus, then you will pay towards the general health system as well. Okay, one thing, if you're a pensioner coming over and you have your UK state pension, you can apply in the UK through HMRC for an S1 form. That form will then allow you to be set up on the general health system in Cyprus. But be aware that once you are set up on that system in Cyprus with your S1 form, you will not be covered by the NHS in the UK. So if you're going back on holiday to the UK, you just need to keep that in mind. Okay, so I won't do the checklist first. I'm just going to talk through about some changes to buying property for residency. This has been a real big debate in Cyprus for the last few years. A few people had bought property to get the residency and it's just got stuck in the system. So no new ones have come out for about 18 months. But then in May last year, they made some significant changes. So I'm just going to run through those with you. So the first thing is that the property value has to be at least 300,000 euros and it has to be a new build. So therefore, the VAT that I've covered earlier will come into play here. On top of that, you now need to prove annual income of 50,000 euros for the main applicant, and then an additional 15,000 euros for the spouse, additional 10,000 euros for each minor child. So that's a minor child is someone under the age of 18 or someone who is in university who is under the age of 25. Again, you need to have a clear criminal record certificate, but you also have to certify that you do not intend to work in Cyprus. So these are some changes to the system, to the previous system. The other thing to remember with this is that previously you were allowed to bring your in-laws and your parents under your own permit. That is no longer allowed. You can only bring spouse and your children. Anyone else, so parents, in-laws, they need to have their own permit. So if they were coming through buying property as their residency, they would have to buy their own property. The other thing as well is that you have to declare every year that you're doing all of these things. You have to prove that you've got your 50,000 and the rest for the spouse and children, and that you're not working. If you fail any of that criteria, your permit can be revoked. So even though you've bought the property, you may still not be able to reside in Cyprus. So it's just worth noting. Okay. One thing I didn't mention when I was talking about the other permit, which is the annual permit, is that you have to renew every year on that one. You don't need to buy property for it, but you do need to show that you've got that 24,000 euro income coming in. And again, you have to show that for 5 years. After 5 years, you can apply for permanent residency, and then you don't have to meet any of the money criteria. Okay, so that is, worth noting. So that's all on that. So the vital checklist. It's important to speak to your financial advisor before you leave the UK to move to Cyprus, and that is so that you've got everything in order, that you've got your pension statements, you've got your investment statements. And that is because since Brexit, UK IFA, so UK financial advisors, cannot offer you advice if you are living in the EU. So when you come to Cyprus, you need to have your own Cyprus financial advisor to help you. So it's important that you get all those statements for pensions and savings and investments all there ready. If you intend to sell your main residence in the UK, you will need to complete that transaction before you become a Cyprus resident. A lot of people manage to do that. Some people don't until they come here, but there doesn't seem to be an issue with that. But ideally, if you can do that before you come, that's great. And then obviously estate planning. The UK and Cyprus, as we've already highlighted, have different systems. So we have the forced heirship here, the UK does not. So it is important that you are aware of all of these things before you leave the UK and embark on your next journey and next adventure. Okay, and that's it from me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gillian. I'm going to just put this slide up with your contact details in case someone would like to get in touch with you straight away after this webinar. So yeah, just wanted to say I would have never thought that after this webinar I would be wanting to move to Cyprus even more so, but when I heard about the short waiting times for doctor's appointments, I thought maybe this is a good idea, because I've been waiting for my specialist doctor's appointment since October and it's in June, so yay. So amazing. So we've got a few questions. I know it's only 3 minutes left, but we'll just go through them real quick. I apologize, there was a motorcycle just going past my house. So Antonio asked, I think it was about the time when you were talking about the medical exams requirements, all that stuff. If you have an EU passport, are any of these requirements still needed?
No.
Okay, so none of those, no X-rays, none of those.
No. If you have an EU passport, you can come to Cyprus. You can come to Cyprus. You can work in Cyprus. So none of those rules about the medical tests or the amount of income, you don't need to show any of those.
Okay, perfect. Well, that makes it nice and easy. Next question. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, no, it makes it nice and easy if you've got an EU passport.
Okay. Okay, I thought you were going to add something. Sorry about that. Okay, next question from Henrik. Tax pension. If pension is taxed in homeland, which is Denmark for Henrik, then does he still have to pay 5% pension tax in Cyprus?
If Denmark has a double taxation treaty with Cyprus, no, that you would only pay in one country. That's why they have those agreements. And I think Denmark does. So he can choose which is the cheapest rate, whether it's in Denmark or whether it's in Cyprus.
Nice. Okay, well, also nice and easy. Another question from Carl. Are the CGT allowances per person? So if in joint ownership after 5 years, could two times by 85,000, over 85,000 euros be exempt?
Yes.
Would that be
yes.
Exempt? Okay. Perfect. And Stephen asks, do you need to be a resident to buy property on the island?
You don't. But it depends what you're going to do with the property. So, and it depends where you're from. So if you were from the UK and you're buying property and you want to rent it out, that's more difficult, because any properties that are rented out now, and particularly from anyone from the UK, they all have to be registered. And then you have to have a tax code. So you'll be taxed on that rental property income. But it is more difficult if you're British coming now to Cyprus to buy property to rent it out and not being a resident.
Okay, I see. Perhaps one, Stephen, to get in touch with Gillian and discuss your specific circumstances. And one last question from Henrik as well. Let me just find that. He asked whether there is an equities tax on funds, or dividends tax on funds.
Okay, if they're held in Cyprus, then yes, dividends are taxed in Cyprus. If they're not held in Cyprus and you take income from that, or you take the dividends from the investment, then no, there's no tax on it. It really depends.
So
it depends where the dividends are coming from. If they're in Cyprus, yes, you're taxed on it. If it's outside of Cyprus, no, you're not.
Okay, cool. That really makes sense, and it's nice and easy as well. I like those tax webinars when it's just like very straightforward answer. We know what's happening. So that's amazing. Thanks so much, Gillian. We unfortunately ran out of time, but I'm happy that we've run through most of the questions. If any of your questions hasn't been answered, I will make sure to forward those to Gillian so she can get in touch with you as well. But that's all. That's about all we have time for in today's session. So thank you so much, Gillian, for sharing your knowledge with us, and thank you to everyone who was listening. As I previously mentioned, we strongly recommend you get in touch with Chase Buchanan directly to discuss your specific requirements in detail. And we'll also send you an email tomorrow with the details, as well as a link to this webinar, so that you can rewatch it and rewatch the slides, because I know there's plenty of information there that you might as well kind of have somewhere to watch over and over, essentially. And before we finish, I'd like to invite you to leave us a review on Trustpilot if you found this remotely helpful. So I'm going to pop that right in the middle of your screen now. And thank you so much again for watching. And I'm just going to say happy property hunting, and hopefully you will be able to get your property and move to Cyprus very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.